Morning, everyone. It is Wednesday morning. It's 10 o'clock UK time. And once again, we're live in conversation with. And this morning, I'm joined by Gary Brown from Let's Do Business. Morning, Gary.
Hi, morning, Brian. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Bit bunged up, but hey, it's the time of year, isn't it? Really,
Yeah. A lot of people I know have got something. So, yeah.
absolutely. So, no, doing well. Everything good your end?
Thank God. Yes, things are
Good.
good.
Good. Thanks for joining me. I know you're very busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time out to come and join me today to have a little discussion about sales and business owner type stuff, really, because it's a hard thing, sales, isn't it? It's something we all need. Um, we like to underplay it a little bit, I think, a lot of us, but our business wouldn't be a business without sales, would it?
No, so firstly, thank you for having me. I enjoyed last time so much and always good to catch up and chat. I hear what you're saying. At the end of the day, I am biased because I run a sales company, but you can't pay the bill with reviews and goodwill and likes
Nope.
and shares. You pay the bills with hard cash.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, there's always the conflict we have of working in our business and working on our business. And if you don't
Absolutely.
work in the business, you'll lose customers because you're not servicing them. But if you don't work on your business, you won't get new customers. And I don't think, unless you're a massive company, I don't think word of mouth is a strong enough strategy to rely on as your only route to market.
It's very
That's
interesting,
the
isn't it? Because
conflict. Yeah.
absolutely, and it's very interesting, isn't it? Because it's a fine balance. Because where do you draw the line between servicing your clients and working on getting more clients? It's a really hard balance, isn't it? Because you want to get the money in by doing the work, and but you need to do the work to get some new ones in as well, don't you?
So I do think that firstly, you've got to be honest with your time and you
Mm,
also need to be a bit regimented.
mm,
I have a schedule, and in my schedule, I actually have a 2 hour slide in the schedule in case things come up. So you can
yeah,
build in I'm not sure what's going to happen every minute of the day, of course. But I'll give you an example of something that I did as a business owner, which is during Christmas of 2020, I looked back at my year and I realized I was going to loads of networking meetings, which was limiting my time to do my client work. And not all the meetings I was attending was I getting results from.
no,
So my New Year's resolution was that I tried something which I'm pleased to say was very successful in 2021, and I advise all business owners is I actually said I'm not going to do more than 2 networking events a week.
mm,
I'm going to have one slot that I can go to a new thing anytime I like. And I'm going to have one thing that's regular. Now, my regular things are actually monthly. So I'm in 5 different networks, but I've got the familiarity of getting to know people over 3, 4 months. And I still have that extra slot of going, well, what do I fancy this week based on one of the networks I'm in? I won't name one. It's not fair to name one and not the others. So my point was that I limited my networking to 3 hours a week.
mm, yeah,
By doing that, I suddenly found I had the time to follow up properly. I had the time to do my client. And I think as a business owner, the first step in resolving this conflict is to go, I actually need to make a schedule. But most people don't have a schedule once they leave school.
yeah.
We get rid of our timetables. But I think if you're a business owner, you need to have a schedule. And like I said, build in a 2 hour slide that you're unsure what's going to, but you have to separate your time into this is when I work, this is when I network, this is when I work on my business. And yeah, there's 2 hours where things can come up. So
I
that would be
completely agree, and it was something I was discussing with someone yesterday in a network meeting. Actually, I have for the last many years always kept the first part of Mondays free from any client facing work, always,
right.
and just focus that first part of the week on the business only. And I'll do the same and of the very last part of Fridays. It's never been any client works in on the last part of Fridays. So I always have those two slots, and I've done that for years and years and years. And I agree with you. I think it's about discipline, but I suppose it's difficult, isn't it? Because if you're a joiner or you're a plumber, someone rings you up, they want you to come first thing on the Monday or last part of the Friday. When do you book that time in?
Well, I think that, you know, I think you're very fortunate because you have a partner, which is great.
Yeah.
And that allows you to delegate client work and new business work in a great way. But I think a lot of people watching this will be one person businesses. And I would say that I think something we all struggle with is losing control in terms of letting go.
Yeah.
And normally, very often when I meet people and they say, I want to grow my business, but I'm really swamped, my first piece of advice is actually not to do sales work. My first piece of advice is go and find a VA and get someone to do a lot of the work you're doing that you should not be doing.
Yeah.
So that your time will if a VA freed up just 2 hours a day of your time, you now have 10 hours a week to change your business. And most of the people I work with, I advise them that you only need to do an hour a day of sales work, because if you're consistently doing it, then after 3 to 4 months, you will see the results and then you just keep going. So if you get a VA to free up 2 hours a day of your time, you still have that hour a day to play with.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't hire a VA because they can't let go of the control.
I agree.
That's something that I relate to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's always this scared element of always going to cost me money type thing, not realizing the overall profits you're making by taking someone on like that. So I completely get it. So let's get into the nitty gritty of sales a little bit. Then something I wanted to ask you: have you seen a big difference in trend in regards to what actually makes a sale before the pandemic and now? Do you see any difference? Is it harder to close a sale now, or are people more open minded to get on with things and move forward with stuff you quoted for?
I think people are much more open to having online meetings, obviously. I
Yeah.
think people are much more open to having phone calls, because the whole concept of I only work with people I can shake hands with really got flipped on its head,
Completely. Yeah,
which
I
I
agree.
think is a good thing for the market, because I think it shouldn't matter where you are. If someone needs your help and you can help them, then you should be willing to try and help them for the right price. And they should be willing to say, well, I don't care where you are. If you're able to help me, I'll pay you. So I do think that trend has made a massive difference. But I also think the downside is people did over network a lot because there was no traveling anymore. People were like, I'll go to 6 networking events,
Yeah.
and that left them no time to do follow up or to take meetings from other people who could have serviced them. So I see the positive and the negative of it. And I think overall, people are starting to find a happy balance where they're still doing more networking than they would because they're not spending an hour traveling, but they're now realizing I need time to actually run my business, speak to people. Why go networking if you're not going to follow up? I don't
I,
understand that. Why
I
go
completely
networking
agree.
if you go, I don't want my details shared? I don't
Yeah.
understand that either.
No,
You
very
know,
strange. Yeah, and you know, you're touching something really quite interesting there, because I attended this networking thing yesterday morning, and fantastic group of people. There was particularly one person who was very keen on getting my details, and I was quite interested in what he was offering as a service to know more about him as well. So we agreed that he was going to email me, and we were going to set up a one-to-one so we could explore each other more. And that's now been 24 hours. I haven't heard, and I'm already starting to think that actually I'm perhaps not that interested in speaking to him anymore, because I did my follow up within 2 hours of that networking meeting event ended, and yet 24 hours later, this chap has still not bothered to follow up. That's sloppy, isn't it?
I do think it's sloppy, but I'd also say that sometimes we have to remember, and look, I'm relentless when I chase because I believe chasing is legitimately fine. If you've said to me, we're going to have a meeting or send me a proposal and I'll be in touch in a few days, I totally believe it's legitimate to follow up with that person. I think there's this false perception that if you have to wait to be contacted, I don't think that's true. In a case where, you've had a meeting, you've agreed they'll get back to you, But I do bear in mind that I'm not the only thing in somebody's life. And I
Yeah,
think we can, as an owner, believe that our business is the only thing in this person's life and think, what's going on? They've got all day to get back to me, but maybe they don't have all day to get back to me. Somebody might have COVID in their family and suddenly they're having to deal with a bunch of stuff they didn't have to deal with before. And so I think if we bear that in mind, that will help us to still want to talk to the people that we meet, but understand it might take a few days. I agree. If after a week or two nothing's happened, you go, this is someone that doesn't do follow up properly. Maybe I don't want to speak to them. But I'd also say one last thing, which is I think you made a tiny error, because I would say you should always try and keep control of the sales process. And if this is a potential client for you, then you should always say, well, I would like your details, because if I haven't heard from you in 24 hours, I'm going to reach out to you. So you still give them the opportunity to show how keen they are, whilst bearing in mind they might have something else going on in their lives that you can't control. But you also have the ability to go, hi, hope everything's okay. You didn't get back to me. What's up? And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, I'm sorry, I forgot, something came up. It's nothing. And instead of saying what you said, I don't know if I want to talk to them anymore, which is a totally understandable reaction, because it is a bit cheeky. Like, you had a great chat, why aren't they calling? It just allows that extra time for things to develop. So
so
I would
what
say always take the details of people you want to speak to.
I think that's a good tip, absolutely, and I should have done, but there were so many things going on, but that's not an excuse. So what do you think is the appropriate amount of time between the meeting and the follow up?
I think when you go networking, you should be following up within 24 hours, unless it's
Okay,
a Friday, in which case you can follow up on Monday,
sure,
because the weekend. But I would also add that in terms of networking in general, a tip somebody gave me that I didn't know actually is, when I save the chat on Zoom and you use the 3 dots, it saves it to a text document, which is not very nice and a bit annoying. So if you put your mouse in the middle of the chat and you press right mouse and press select all and copy and paste it, you can put it in a Word document and you'll find it's much clearer and easier to see what
sure,
everybody wrote. So
sure.
that's why I would say always save the chat.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. I love the networking organization that actually sends you an attendee list. I'm part of this
Yes.
Loris group, and they actually send out by email an attendees list, and I think that's just fantastic. Not that I use it to actually go in and actually use it as a marketing thing, but if I do meet someone at their meeting that I want to have a chat with after, then I have the list and I can go and I can directly contact them. I find that very useful.
While we talk about networking, one thing I would say that I've noticed that people don't do, which is surprising, is you have to realize that you might not get to speak to everybody at the event. But if you can offer something that could help someone, or someone that they know, because remember you're networking to sell beyond the room to the people they know, then you've missed out on a chance if your name is just your name.
Yeah,
When I go networking, I have Gary Brown sales, outsourcing, and coaching. And the amount of times I see people with just their name, and I'm thinking somebody might really need what you offer, but they have no clue what you do
yeah.
unless you put your name. And not everyone's reading the chat, let's be honest. So my other tip would be always change your name to say your name and what you
What
do.
you do.
The people.
Absolutely. Yeah, you see a lot of people doesn't do that. I think a lot of people don't know how to. Honestly, I don't think they know how to go into the Zoom and actually change the names. So
Oh, that's easy. You would literally hover over your
yeah,
name, right click, press where it says rename, and then
yeah,
type in your name, do a space, a hyphen, and then say what you do.
absolutely.
It's that simple. I know you know, but someone watching might not. So if
Yeah, no,
we help one
absolutely.
person, it's
Yeah,
worth.
absolutely. Fantastic. That's great. So just everyone, if you're watching this and you like it, please smash the like button, share it out to the world. We want as many people as we can to see this. If you have any questions to what we're discussing here, even if it's after the stream, just please fill in the questions, and Gary will come back to everyone with some answers if you have any sales specific questions. Do go and find Gary on LinkedIn, Facebook, everywhere where he's sort of find. I know he's what's that thing you're using? Snap. What's it called? That thing, that messaging thing you're using all the time.
Oh my days, WhatsApp.
That's the one. I'm showing my age here.
We discussed this. Yes,
Yes,
I'm
we
a
did.
big WhatsApp advocate because I'm based in Israel. The way for me to keep in touch with people in England and America, where I work, WhatsApp's amazing. Send messages straight away. It's quicker than email.
Yes.
So, but there are those clients and friends that I use Skype with. So, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, big trends for 2022 when it comes for sale. What do we need to look out for? What do we need to stop doing that we did last year? What do you think is going to work?
I think 2022 is going to see the pressure to return to handshake based sales. There will be those that resist it. It might take another year for that to return. I personally would be very sad to see that because I definitely believe in shaking hands when you can. That's very important. But I think if you can't, you shouldn't delay things if it's the right solution for you. So if you come across someone that can solve a problem in your business, but you go, oh, I'm not going to be able to meet you face to face for another 2 months. That's 2 months your business is going without a solution that you need.
Yeah.
And even if you don't think it's urgent, and you might say, well, I can survive without that. But in theory, what you're saying is my business is deficient and I'm going to live with this deficiency by choice just because I haven't touched somebody's hand.
Yeah.
So that's the trend I see happening. And I think people should be aware of it and say, look, I understand that, but why don't we see how far we can get by talking online first? There's a lot we can accomplish.
I do think people have become much more comfortable and much more familiar with the whole meeting online.
Yes.
It's very, very rare that I meet anyone now who says, "Oh, well, actually, can we meet somewhere for coffee?" It hardly ever happens anymore.
Right. But I believe, and I hope I'm wrong, but I believe that will change by
So,
May, June.
yeah,
Because as we come out of the Omicron wave, I know there's the BA2 variant, but as we come out of the Omicron wave, there will be this pressure now to say, right, we've done this for 2.5 years. It's enough
yeah.
now. Let's
Let's
do it.
get back
So
and
and
shake
you have
hands
to do
again.
what's right for you. Can I just say
Absolutely.
one final thing that I it is sales based, but I think it is very business owner related. One problem that business owners seem to have is they don't want to exclude anybody as a potential client. We can work with anyone, but I don't think they distinguish between inbound and outbound. And this prevents them doing an exercise that I think every business needs to do. If anyone wants help with this, please reach out to me. But you should have an ideal client profile. And what that ideal client profile will do is it will help you focus on your outbound activities, networking, picking up the phone, cold approach phone calls, as we spoke about last time we spoke, Brian. And what that does is it allows your efforts to be much more focused on your ideal client. And I guarantee you that you will still have people who fall outside of that coming to you. And
Mm.
that's fine, that's inbound. But we spoke before about time management. If you're spending an hour a day on sales, why would you not be trying to sign your ideal client?
I think a
So
lot of
that's,
people don't know
you
what that kind of work looks like, Gary. So what does that
well,
look like? Because I don't think a lot of people do. Because I think for a lot of certainly smaller businesses, their business sort of comes to them, type thing. So what
right.
does that? So what does that exercise look like?
So the exercise basically, I would say there's a demographic profile and a psychographic profile. The demographic profile would be the physical attributes of your ideal client in terms of the business and the position. For example, I would say for myself, my ideal client falls into one of two categories. They're either a business that is failing and they need sales, otherwise the person's going to have to close the business and get a job, or they're a business that are successful but they've hit a glass ceiling and they want to go from more than just a small business to a bigger business, or to a business where they can start hiring other people and actually grow beyond that glass ceiling. That already limits my choice of my outbound activities. I would then say I specialize in B2B sales. So if you're selling to the public, I'm happy to give some help where I can, but I would normally refer you to somebody else because I'm dealing with business to business sales. And within that, I'm doing professional services or tech services. So even though it sounds like I'm really limiting my options, this just defines who I'm going to go and pick up the phone to or what networking events I'm looking for. If somebody comes to me on LinkedIn or because of this interview and says, look, I heard what you said, but I actually, I sell product X to people. I'd love some sales help. I'm going to do my best to help them. And if I don't think I can, I'll refer them. And if I believe I can, I'll say, here's how I think I can help. Here's what we should do. So you need to try and write a paragraph describing in as much detail as you can the kind of business and businesses that you would love to work with the most. And then the psychographic profile is, what are their pain points? Because if you know the pain points, then your sales pitch, which we spoke about last time being benefit-based, can deal with those pain points without you having to bring them up. So when I say we help businesses get clients without spending money on marketing, I'm already addressing all those businesses that have spent £5,000 on Facebook campaigns and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Write descriptive paragraphs of the businesses and their problems, and you'll see it becomes much clearer who you should be targeting. And again, that doesn't rule out people coming to you, but it's who you should be going after.
Who you should
if anyone
spend your
needs help
time
with that, I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah. Listen, Gary, time is just ticking on here. We could talk forever. There's no doubt about it. I'm very appreciative about you taking your time to come and join me today. To everyone out there, just to let everyone know that Gary's going to be in the UK from Sunday, I believe. And
yes, hopefully, Sunday
for
for
more or
3
less
weeks.
a month.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to meet up and speak to Gary about what he can do to help, I can't praise him enough and recommend him enough. If you do get the chance and you are looking for someone to help you with sales, hook up with Gary, go and have a cup of coffee with him, and I'm pretty sure you'll be pretty pleased with that. So thank you very much for joining me, Gary. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
No, it's a pleasure. Everyone who's watching, thank you for watching. Next week, I am going to go live with a chap called Joshua Factor. He has built a CRM system, so we're going to be discussing what on earth made him do that, and why do we as a business owner need a CRM system. So hopefully that will be interesting and fun. So thank you everyone for watching. Take care out there, stay safe, and I hope you all have a wonderful week until I see you next week. Take care, everyone.